pulley is frictionless, so no friction there. Two's not touching anything. I have only two normal force pairs. Friction requires that. There is a normal force pair. I have a normal force pair here. I have a friction here. I have a normal force pair. I don't have friction there, but I at least needed to look.
So to have friction, we always have to have a normal force.
Yeah, the friction requires a normal force. When we get to chapter 4, there's an equation for friction which involves normal force. It's developed in the late 1700s. It has not been changed since. All right, so friction is done. And now tension.
Right off of box 1. Up off of box 2.
However, those are not part of the same pair. Where's the other part of that pair? Acting on the rope. Something is stretching the rope, and that's the tension here. So the tension is pulling mass 1 to the right, and mass 1 is pulling the rope to the left. Similar here, tension is pulling up on mass 2. Mass 2 is pulling down on the rope.
And for tension, you do the capital F?
I do capital F subscript T for tension, because if on the test you use capital T for tension, I know what you mean.
But we don't have to put 1 and 2?
All right. If you did 1 and 2,
Yes,
those would be 1,
yes.
those would be 2.
So we would just circle it?
There's
so-
absolutely, yeah, you put a little 1 there and a 1 there,
Okay.
2 there and a 2 there. Absolutely no problem with that. I do not take off for it.
Okay.
However, for a single ideal rope, and it is an ideal rope, for a single ideal rope, the tension at both ends is actually going to be the same magnitude.
Okay.
So you really, the only time you're required, assuming ideal rope, the only time you're required to have subscripts for the tension is if I have more than 1 rope.
Okay.
However, some students want to put it in there, no problem. It's more accurate. I just don't take off for it if you leave them off for the same rope. Which is why out there, even though it was not an ideal rope, when we were in the hallway, I commented that the force that were being pulled on from the outsides were about the same. Because the tension is pretty much constant throughout.
Even though the weight's different?
Even though the weight's different, it does not change that.
Can you explain the arrows for the friction in the wrist box?
Okay, so you're sitting on the ground. Hopefully this doesn't trigger anything. You're in a well-ventilated coffin. You got plexiglass, and you got the box sitting on top. You're not freaking out. Everything's cool. You know everything's safe. And so you're looking at it from the ground's point of view. So you're lying here, the box is sitting over you, and you set this thing up. Which way is box 1 going to go?
Yeah.
Box 1. Which way is box 1 going to go?
Oh, to the right.
Yeah, you're going to see the box 1 go that way if it's going to go. From the ground's point of view, box 1 was to go that way. Friction opposes that relative motion. So from the ground's point of view, box is going that way, and so the friction that I'm going to exert is, I'm going to say, oh, not on my watch. I'm going to try to push back. So this is opposing, from the ground's point of view, it's opposing the direction box 1 wants to go. Now, if you're in box 1 looking down, it looks like to you the ground is going this way. And you go, oh, no, not on my watch. And so you're going to apply a friction force that way on the ground.
So you said that if there's a natural force,
Normal.
normal force, there's friction, right?
No, if there's friction, there's a normal force. Friction requires normal force. Normal force does not necessarily mean there's friction. But anywhere I've got a normal force pair, I need to look, is there friction there?
Oh, okay. Why isn't there friction with the rope and pulley?
Because I made them ideal and they are frictionless.
Oh, okay,
In reality, yes, there is friction there.
okay.
And the tensions at the end would not be the same. But there's only so much reality we can take in a day. I was not planning to add that level there, where the tension changes on the two ends of the road. But if you want, when we get to chapter 8, we can bring it in if you wish. We'll see how you're feeling. See how you're feeling at that level. Yes,
So
Ashley.
friction requires normal force, but normal force doesn't require friction?
Right.
Okay.
In math speak, it's just you say normal force is a necessary condition of friction. All right. Time for the double wedge. And then I think we're ready for a test bubble problem. We'll make the wedge part off the ground, just to like some part. There is a piece of information I'm not telling you, and we'll talk about that when we get to it. So I draw my objects, I got mass 1, and again, I do recommend drawing it in orientation, which is over there. Box 2. Add the rope. And then I've got ground and pulley is part of the ground. Let's do friction last. All right, first, can we get rid of anything? Which one do you want to do besides friction? I know you're torn. You're saying they all are just so equally as exciting.
Normal force.
It's exhausting some people to the point of yawning. Let's do weight first then. Which way does weight act on mass 1?
Down to the left and down to the right.
No. You went too far.
Theta.
Down to the ground.
Get down. Weight is acting down. Weight always acts. Down is defined by the direction weight is pulling on an object. So I got weight 1 here. I got weight, where's the other part of that pair?
Up from the ground.
If you want to draw it on the ramp, because over there, box 1 is on the ramp, that's fine. The ramp and the ground are part of the same thing. And then weight 2, weight 2. That's it. Oh, and the rope is massless, so it has no weight. Normal force. Unless someone has a dying, burning desire to do tension. I assume the burning desire is for normal force.
Up and left on 1, up and right on 2.
Up and left on 1, up and right on 2. Okay?
Not the same.
Up and left on 1. Up and right on 2.
And then the ground.
Based on the hand gesture there.
Yeah,
Y2,
exactly.
Y1. That's it. tension.
Box one going into the road.
Going towards the road?
Yeah. And the road going towards the box.
Same on the other side.
Go with the spirit of that team. No, I guess it still works. It's not specific with directions other than towards the road. All right, now friction. What would I need to tell you in order to know the direction of friction?
The weight of the box.
That, or mass, yeah, we would need to know the masses of the boxes. But we need one other piece of information.
Which way the road is going? Like the direction of the road?
The direction of the rope, assume that the rope is basically parallel to the ramp. If the rope were not, then yes, we would definitely need the direction of the rope. If I cut the rope, which way would mass one go?
Downward.
All right, and which way would mass two go? All right, so they both want to go in opposite, in a sense, opposite directions. They both are trying to pull away from the rope. They want to go both ways. How much mass there is does matter, but the one other crucial factor is how steep is that angle. And I didn't tell you that because it's out of the scope for this class to be able to calculate that. And 151 and 251, I should be able to give you these angles here, give you the masses, and you can figure out which way it's going to go, but that is not what we need to do here. So what we need to do is somehow figure out which way this thing wants to slide. And so I would have to tell you that information if it's not readily obvious, and in this case, it's not readily obvious. So if I told you that the rope is going to be moving in that direction, that's the direction of the velocity, so that's going like that. Which way is friction acting on mass one then?
To the left.
Say it again?
To the left.
To the,
Yeah. Because it opposes it, no?
yeah, but why would it be that way?
Because it wants to go this way. Friction. No?
Friction stops it from the direction it wants to go in.
Yeah, so, and you might have drawn it correctly, but what you said is not correct.
Friction's pulling it the opposite way.
Say it again?
The friction's pulling it the opposite way,
Yeah, which way does mass one want to go?
to the left.
Mass one wants to go to, mass,
No?
I'm saying that they're gonna go this way, like that.
Uh-huh.
Which way is mass way one gonna go?
To the right.
That way?
I mean, I guess
Oh,
right.
the angle down.
Yes.
Yeah, there's an angle here. So mass one wants to go up the ramp. So friction will be acting
Pushing
Down.
it down.
down the right ramp. And I keep dropping, oh, it's over there. I got this one. So friction is acting purple, that'll stand out, there we go. Ooh.
Moving.
Right.
Maybe light.
Red. So that's the friction on one and friction on one there. And on two, which way is friction acting?
Opposite.
Down.
So mass two wants to go which way?
Down, but so goes up.
Yeah, mass two wants to slide down the ramp, so friction's gonna be acting against that. Let's, again, let's be clear here. When you say down, down is that way. Up, that way. From my point of view, right's that way, which is your left. Just, if it's going off at an angle, you need to be more specific. Part of what physics does is take things that anyone else would understand except physicists, and communicating a language that physicists would understand.
Can you tell me what that T stands for again?
That T right there, tension. I do F sub T for tension. Yeah, Jason.
Friction 2 on the box is confusing, on box 2.
Why friction would be going up that way?
Yeah. If the box wants to go down,
Then
well, I
friction.
guess the box doesn't want to go down, does it?
I stated in the problem after the fact that this is the way that it wants to go.
Right.
And so 2 wants to
Okay.
move down the ramp, so friction says, no.
Go. I'm with you.
Is that a question, Jasmine? Okay. I think you're ready. I think you're anxious for it.
I am not.
A test level problem. That's supposed to be a smile. Perhaps it's eager to know.
He's sledding, so I'm assuming it's not. That's what it looks like.
Surfing.
I call this dead pulling sled with toy on it. If you wish to make it mom pulling daughter or mom pulling son or whatever combination you want, go for it. Adult pulling sled with child on the sled. Ideal rope. They are accelerating to the right. When I say accelerating to the right, it is the direction that they're, oh, and also let's specify they're moving to the right as well. We will go into much more detail about why this is necessary later, but it is indicating that the net force on the objects needs to be to the right. If acceleration were pointing to the left, then the net force would be to the left. The acceleration and the net force on any object have to be in the same direction. And just to give you some sense of how my mind works, I've been doing variations of this problem for a while. At some point I'm going, you know, they've seen this. I've got loads of examples like this. We need to make it more complicated. So it just keeps escalating and escalating. Eventually I get to a point where I go too far and then I scale back. But that doesn't necessarily mean it's happening this semester. Who knows what's gonna happen? But just my mind goes, they've seen it before, so I gotta add a twist to it. All right, so our objects are the ground, the sled, the boy, the rope, the dad. And if the head is round enough, it's my cousin Robert.
Whoa.
He's got the roundest head of any person I've ever known. And he's not gonna be watching anything remotely educational. All right, down. I am gonna ask us to do friction last because that's where most people have the most difficulty. So, what force, what object, which direction?
The kid forced them around.
Yes.
What?
Weight is between the planet and the small object, not between the two small objects. All right, so I've got a weight acting on the kid, down, the weight of, sure, K for kid. Sorry, and then the other one's up on the earth.
And then wait on the dad.
If you want to draw the weight directly, this upward force on the ground directly underneath the dad, if you drew it over here, I would know what you mean. Or you could just extend it around if you want.
What about weight up of the sled? Down and to the ground and then up to the ground.
Okay. The rope is ideal, so there has no mass, therefore no weight. And that's it. Weight, we're done. Now what?
Normal force up on the sled. Up on the dad.
Normal force up on the sled from what?
From the ground.
All right. Got to grab green. Let's see how that works. All right, so up on the sled, down on the ground. All right, where else?
On the dad.
Did you want to stand up? Go, Robert, my turn. All right, so which way acting on the deck?
Up on the dad,
Up on the dad.
down on the ground.
Okay. This is what leaves the footprint.